Hello, everyone. Good morning. It's here in Arkansas. This is Dr. Brian Ray with DBR Bookkeeping, doing business right. And we'll be talking about some tax prep things you can do to help make tax season a little bit easier for both you and your CPA and your bookkeeper. If you're doing that, again, this is focused more for small business owners who are maybe solo entrepreneurs, sole proprietors, maybe you have an LLC, home-based businesses, consultants, service-based businesses, smaller operations that still have questions, but don't necessarily have inventory, large payroll, a huge list of contractors that they got to pay, all those more complicated things out there, large assets, depreciation that we need to discuss. Those are all for larger entities. This is really for like if you just have an online community or maybe you have a small service-based business that you run from home. Let's talk about what you can do to be successful for taxes. All right, so let's get into it. I have made a couple of little checklists here. So with this today's training today, we're going to have two different things. We're going to go through this tax prep checklist for small business owners, but focused on service-based industries. So let's get into this checklist. All right. So who is this for? This checklist is for primarily service-based who use QuickBooks Online, QBO, and are preparing for taxes. Again, if you're not using QBO, this information still can be helpful, but really this is great for anybody who's using QBO. What is the goal? Is to provide a nice clear checklist to help you, small business owners, prepare for their taxes efficiently and take control of your finances. And why is this important? Again, tax season doesn't have to be stressful. With accurate records and proper planning, you can maximize deductions, avoid IRS penalties, and save immense time. So use this checklist to make sure that you are tax ready so you can focus on growing your business. A quick overview, basically 7 steps to get ready for your taxes. First is to gather and organize your records, reconcile your bank and credit card accounts, organize and categorize business expenses, ensure invoices and accounts receivable are accurate, verify payroll and contractor payments, 1099s and W-2s, review and maximize tax deductions, and prepare for year-end tax filing. So let's get into these steps more specifically, and let's start doing business right. All right, so step one is to gather and organize financial records. For some small business owners, this is maybe one of the biggest and hardest parts of your process because you haven't done this for the past year. So again, if you can do this on a regular basis, this is awesome. So first is your profit and loss statement. Your CPA is going to ask for your profit and loss statement. They ask how much did you make, what were your breakdown of your expenses for the year. You just can't give them a whole bunch of stuff and then make an actual statement. They actually want basically a single sheet that has them all together and broken down into different categories. That is your profit loss statement. They may be asking you for your balance sheet. This is what your assets, what you own, basically what's in your bank accounts, maybe accounts receivable, maybe you do have a couple of large assets in there, fixed assets, those are assets. And again, on that same sheet, they're going to have what are your liabilities on there. So any of your credit card balances or maybe loans that you may have. Again, they want to have that all in a nice list and then your equity at year end. If you have questions about what is actually breaking down the balance sheet, schedule a call with me and I'll be happy to break down what is a balance sheet and how to create that balance sheet. They may ask you for a cash flow statement, tracking your money in and money going out. Again, if you have questions about that, we can discuss that and how to make that. Now, the great thing is with QuickBooks Online, you can create all these documents really fast. Super, super, super fast. So if you've been keeping up with your QuickBooks, it's literally a couple clicks and we can get all these statements really easy. So you don't have to like, go and make a spreadsheet or some type of Excel file. We can literally within minutes have all these documents for your CPA. But you may also need to have your bank and credit card statements to ensure that all your accounts, you have them all, and any loan and line of credit statements. Basically, any of those financial records from institutions, you want to have those. Again, you can see them for loans, vehicle loans, lines of credit, all bank accounts, checking accounts, savings accounts, credit cards, all those type of things you want to have. Even if you have you're using PayPal or Venmo or anything like those type of things, you can actually get those transaction lists as well. Again, just you want to have them. So in step one, gather all this information. All right. Next is that we want to reconcile accounts. Now, step two and step three kind of depends on where you are in your process. If you have everything all organized and categorized, then you can reconcile. If you have not, you might need to organize and categorize some expenses. So again, step two and step three could kind of uh, interchange depending on where you are in your business. But for right now, it needs to get done. Either way, step two and step three need to get all done. So we'll want to reconcile our bank accounts. And how to do that is you go to accounting, you go to reconcile, and we want to ensure that whatever QuickBooks says is on the balance of an account is what your actual statement says. So we want to avoid any missing transactions or duplicate transactions. This does happen in QuickBooks, right? We want to fix any unclear transactions, any negative balances or inconsistencies. If you do have petty cash or cash on hand, you can actually can reconcile that saying, yes, this is how much I have petty cash I have, and how much all those receipts and making sure that those balances all add up. So your big red flag is if their QuickBooks balance does not match your bank balance, you have missing or duplicated transactions and you want to fix this before you're filing taxes. Another big issue that I've seen, pro tip, is that you might have transfers between different accounts. And those transfers might not be going to the right place. So you have money going out of your bank account, maybe going to a personal account, but then it's being categorized as going to your savings account. Well, now your QuickBooks balances are all off because those transfers aren't going the right place. Same thing with credit card payments. That's a transfer from your bank account to your credit card. Again, this could be miscategorized. Another way that we need to keep an eye on. So if things are not adding up, then we need to go and find missing transactions. So that's why organizing and actually categorizing these expenses might be needed or do some investigation. So, step three or two is review all your transactions in QuickBooks and ensure all the expenses are properly categorized, right? You want to separate any business and personal. Again, if you're using a mixed accounts, again, you do not want to do this, but sometimes it does happen. You use your business card for a personal expense. If you have done that, the easiest ways you can categorize that personal expense is just put it as a owner draw or owner distribution if you're a larger entity, right? But really for sole proprietors, LLCs, single owner, just an owner draw is the easiest way to categorize a personal expense. You can also use rules in QBO to automate your transactions, but just be careful because rules can misclassify and they can classify all of your Amazon transactions incorrectly. So just be careful if you're using rules, but you can double check those and make sure you're okay. So you want to categorize everything. Everything needs to get categorized in QuickBooks, right? Here's some common deductions that you need to know about for your business, right? Um, Office rent or home office deductions. Again, that includes if you have a home office, that means an actual room, an office with a door and four walls, right? You can actually claim part of your mortgage, part of your utilities, part of all that type of stuff can actually a percentage of that office can be used. Um, Again, you want to maybe clarify with your CPA, but again, you want to have that information. How much did you pay over those expenses? All your softwares and subscriptions, again, make sure you've tracked all those. Sometimes these do tend to, maybe you started on your personal account and you never transferred it over. Well, make sure you transfer them over, but also make sure that we can add those transactions into there. Advertising and marketing, all advertising and marketing. This is a really big, broad category. All ad spend, any flyers, business cards, any promotional items that you may be doing for your business, that's all falls under there. If you have any business meals or travel expenses, again, those portion can be deducted. So make sure you have those in there. Legal, bookkeeping, consulting, coaching that's directed for your business. Again, those can be written off. Any insurance, and then any type of education and training that's business related. This includes books, webinars, maybe a weekend conference, anything like that can be classified, and you want to have those properly classified. Also, I want to note a common red flag. Misclassified expenses can cost you thousands in missed deductions. If you're unsure about a category, ask a tax professional or a bookkeeper like DBR, like me. All right. But again, a lot of people might forget their travel. They had a hotel, they had some travel expenses or travel meals, their airfare and a whole trip, and they totally forgot that that was business related, and that could have been $1,000 that they did not claim on for their deductions, and that's costing you money. Again, training, all those type of things. We want to maximize our deductions as legally and ethically as possible. So. Once everything is all classified, now again, with step two and step three, they can kind of, depending on how where you are in your books, you basically want to get everything categorized and you want everything reconciled, right? Once everything is reconciled in there, then we want to go check into our invoices and accounts receivable, right? In QuickBooks, you actually can run an accounts receivable aging report to check for any unpaid invoices. If a customer did pay and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot they did pay me. They paid me through cash. I need to make sure that's accounted for, right? Well, then we need to close that and apply those open invoices showing so we're avoiding duplicate revenue. And then if someone is not paying you, maybe you've gone through the process of trying to collect that. Again, depending on how much that invoice is, there are legal paths that you can do to go get that money, or some businesses actually just write that off as bad debt, and that is actually a business expense. So again, we don't want to say delete the invoice, right? Say there was a $200 invoice that was revenue, right? We want to just keep that in revenue because it was there because you did, do the service to make that. But then in your expenses, we can actually write that off and say as a bad debt category. And then it kind of just balances out in your books. A red flag. If your bank balance is significantly higher than your QuickBooks balance, you may have duplicated revenue entries that inflate your tax bill. Again, we do not want to say we made more than we actually did. And a big issue that a lot of businesses have is that their invoicing accounts receivable has not been properly tracked. This also goes maybe if you brought in some payments and you were undeposited funds, but then you actually saw the money coming in through your QuickBooks and you counted as revenue. Well, again, now you're duplicating. So again, this is how you can easily know if you have duplications, if your balances are significantly higher in QuickBooks. Next, we want to verify your payroll and any contractor payments. So again, if you are running payroll through an actual payment processor, including QuickBooks, we want to make sure that those reports are accurate. Employee wages, withholdings, and taxes. If you're working with a payment processor, they should have all those type of information. Contact them and make sure you have all those documents and let them know, hey, I just need to know all my payroll reports and make sure that you're up to date. The big thing that if you're not running through payroll and you're basically just running through contractors, which is a lot of people, is we want to make sure, A, that you have W-9s for any of your contractors before we issue the 1099s. You want to have those W-9s. If you work with anybody, get in the habit of collecting a W-9 immediately. So if it's February, right? Collect a W-9, pay them for the rest of the year. It's that way you can file that 1099 at the following January. And then you want to file your 1099 forms to any contractor that you paid $600 or more. This is due before January 31st. If you've missed this deadline, you can still get that in there. There may be potential penalties with that, but you can still get it in there. Your payment processor, or you could generate your W-2s for employees. Again, QuickBooks can help with this. Your payment processor can help with that. Again, these are all due by the 31st. So we want to make sure that all these payments and 1099s and W-2s are out there. Huge and important for the people that have worked for you. The red flag, incorrect payroll filings or missing 1099s can result in IRS penalties. Again, this is one of the fastest ways from what I've heard from CPAs to get audited. When payroll gets weird, that's a big red flag like, hey, what's going on here? So if you need help, consult with your CPA or your bookkeeper or talk to your payment processor if you need help, depending on what your issue is. We're almost there, just a couple few things. Right? Review and maximize your tax deductions. After you've done all your categorization and you've gone through your accounts receivable, you've gone through your contractor payments, everything. Now we just want to identify and just double check. We're double checking, did you get everything? Again, if you do have some depreciation deductions, right, for any large vehicle or equipments, we want to make sure that that is in there too. Again, this is something you can discuss with your CPA. They will know. A big thing to double check is your mileage. For 2025, as of this year, it's 70 cents per mile, right? That's huge, huge. So if you have your mileage log or you have whatever system you have, let's review that so that you can maximize this. And then health insurance premiums. This is another one. If you're self-employed, you may qualify for a deduction. Again, your CPA will have that information. But if you've had those payments paid, have that information ready to go so we can maximize this. Because not tracking expenses can probably lead to overpaying in taxes. I've said this before, so don't leave money on the table. And the final step, you've done all these type of things. Now you want to meet with your bookkeeper or your CPA to review your financials. And we can help double check these things. It's one of the things that I offer. I do a free review of your QuickBooks account to make sure that you are tax ready and identify maybe some issues or areas that the CPA would potentially see. Then you want to send all your required documents to your tax preparer early if you can, so that they have time to compile all this stuff. Because then if they have all your financials are all really easy, you just send it to them and they can file it. They might ask you a couple questions, a couple of clarifying things here and there. But really, if you've stayed organized and have all this stuff, you can really click out reports, double check your stuff, and send it to your tax preparer. And then you want to make sure that things get filed before deadlines. If you're an S corps, all right, March 15th. For most of people who are watching this, it's April 15th, regular tax day for sole proprietors and LLCs. Remember, late filing can result in penalties and interest, so do not wait till last minute. And there you go. And you have everything all done. So again, you can schedule a consultation with me, and I can do a quick review of where you are in your books, and I'd be happy to do that. All right, so we've kind of gone through the tax prep checklist for small business owners, specifically focused on service-based industries. Anyway, right. Thank you for checking this out. And if you have more questions about bookkeeping, financial management, what are deductions, what are ways we can use this to maximize those deductions, ways we can use QuickBooks to help your business be more successful and thriving and knowing your financials and can take control of your financials, not just at tax time, but throughout the entire year, please let me know and check it out. If you'd like to know more information about this and have discussions and ask questions with a bookkeeper, a trained professional who deals with this stuff year round, and other entrepreneurs who are maybe in a similar boat as you and what they're doing and just collaborate, I do have a community, DBR Bookkeeping, right? It's an online community. It's hosted through school. You can check it out through the links, all the type of good stuff that you can have discussions, attend more of these Q&As, all right, where you can actually come onto this live call and ask your questions here in person with me. I do QuickBooks training, there's QuickBooks modules, and there's just a lot of resources that are coming out there. So if you think this would be something very beneficial for your business and your maybe a whole bunch of things we just talked about just seemed overwhelming and you had no idea, come check out the DBR bookkeeping community and you will learn to be a master of your finances, have the confidence to be successful, and just feel good about where you are in your business and where it's going. So I'm Dr. Brian Rea, DBR Bookkeeping, and we're doing business right. I'll see you later.